Traffic Jam is on now.
Hello, good evening. It's a great opportunity to get some good knowledge tonight. And we have a wonderful woman in the house with us. Her name is Angela Thomas. She is the president of Prana Marketing, Media Relations, and she has a phenomenal history, but more than that, a fantastic future. And we're going to get in on all of it. So Angela, thank you so much for joining us today on Traffic Jam. We are happy to have you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you. It's great to be with you.
You have had an opportunity to work with outstanding artists. Lots of R&B and hip hop artists that have gone down in history and that are still notable today. LL Cool J, Drew Hill, Tyrese, Public Enemy, Nas, Cypress Hill, The Fugees, Kelly Price, Slick Ricks, Chris Cross, New Edition, Bobby Brown, Guy, the incomparable Patti LaBelle, my all-time favorite artist ever, period. Heavy D and the Boys, Jody Watley, Stephanie Mills, and you have the reputation for selling lots of records for them, for putting them in a position where they can be successful in the industry. Where did you get that knack, that talent from?
Well, the record business trains you a lot. I first started while I was in college, aside from working in a family restaurant business. So I was always been a working girl since I was 13 years old. I had a paper route at 9, always working. But I was working always in the family restaurant. And then when I went to college, won a pair of tickets to see Marvin Gaye. That just tells you how far back. I picked up my tickets at WILD Radio, Black radio station in Boston, Roxbury, Massachusetts. And I asked them if they needed an intern. They're looking at me like, here's a white girl asking for an internship. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, yeah. And I never left. I became part of the fixtures. I stayed there for 5 years. So I got great training at the radio station. It was WILD. Stephen Hill worked there. Dana Hall worked there. Elroy Smith, just great people in the music industry. Tanya Pendleton, just some great, Melissa Clark, just great people in the music industry. WILD in Boston was a big stepping stone. And so that was the first. And then when I went to MCA Records, I was trained by the best, Ernie Singleton and Gerald Busby.
Wow.
That crew. So I've been very blessed to work with like just great people, but I've worked really hard to get that job at MCA too.
And as a woman, how was it different for you working in that industry than it was for men in comparable positions?
It was interesting. I have to say, I was, when I start looking back in some of the photos, I'm like, gosh, I'm like the only girl. I never, you don't realize it. And I didn't always think about it. I just did what I did. And I think because I worked with these artists that were bubbling under and always happening, they whether I was a guy, a woman, I think sometimes they didn't care. They were just like, okay, what's Angela saying? Because they knew I had the artist. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so, and at that time, your job was different from what it is now. Make a comparison between the way you would prepare an artist to break a record and to get it on radio and to be successful, as how different is it from the way you do it today? Okay.
You're talking just the music business as of today. I will tell you this.
Yes.
I first started in radio promotion. So after working at the radio station, my job was to get songs on radio stations from New York, from Boston down to Philadelphia. When you do that, you kind of have a marketing cap on. So you kind of have to know everything. You have to know record stores, this and that. One thing in today's world that doesn't change, it's getting the music to the right people. And whether it's a DJ, whether the platform is a TikTok, whether the platform is Instagram, it's putting the music in the right spaces. Back then, it was college radio, it was radio stations. It still is college radio, and it still is radio stations. I'm not going to discount that. I still find them very important to this day. But it's also, you have all this social media stuff. It's kind of easier today. Before we were schlepping records, we had to mail them out. We were like, wait, where's the records? Oh, they coming in big boxes. I mean, we're literally sitting on the floor packing up records, sending them to all the, our tastemaker list. Today it's all of a click and you can get it out to everybody. But really, some of it, a lot of it hasn't changed. Artists still have to do their part of the job, which is sing amazing, kind of do the right thing as an artist. So some things don't change.
Yeah, so it's about the music and the song and then the artist.
Yeah, and artist development. When you perform, are you looking at everybody? Are you connecting? And you could be a great artist in the studio. You can be a great artist on Instagram and on social media, but can you translate that on stage? Can you connect to people on stage? And I think you have to do a little bit of everything. So I think, aside from a pandemic going on, I think artists still have to do what they can on social media, and living their life there. But at the end of they also have to connect with people, like real people in a real space, and then perform. And performing is always the key, because when you perform, that is how they make their money: songwriting and performance.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
Mm-hmm. That's where the money is. And how is it more difficult to get a song played on the radio now than it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago?
I think, I don't do that job today. But from what I hear, because I hear songs, I have a 15-year-old daughter. So I kind of watch, like, she knows these songs. I'm like, how do you even know that? And she'll hear about it on TikTok. And maybe 3 weeks later, I hear it on the radio.
Wow.
So, these kids are finding out the music the way we would find it out back in the day in a club, or we would find out about the new music at college radio or Buzzing Under. They're finding out about it on social media, smart radio stations that are following and following the youth market. They see what the kids are dancing to on TikTok and what's blowing up, and they're smart enough to get it on air. So
now, I'm sure you had some very exciting times. I think, probably 25 years ago when you were working with, or 30 years ago, working with a young LL or Crisscross and artists of that nature, you had to take them around or go somewhere with them. They would be appearances at record stores or interviews on radio that maybe you accompanied them to or that you arranged. So what was your most memorable event?
There's been a whole slew of those.
Yes, I can imagine.
I mean, LL Cool J, absolutely one of my faves. He was sometimes, kind of tough, but at the same time, he was only 17, 18 years old. He was a baby. And this was a kid that, like, remembered every program director's name. Hey, how are you? And I'm like watching him saying, yeah, I know this guy. How do you know all this? And he was just incredible. But there was one day, I think he was just tired. I'm like, El, you have to do this interview. And I'm like, this is your career, not mine. He just mocked me. He got so mad. And then another time when he was in Boston, oh my gosh, it was crazy. There was supposed to be this in-store and everything got shut down. There were so many people. And that was really memorable because it was on the front of the papers. I'm from there. It was crazy. It was pandemonium. Just a lot of good times. Same thing happened with LL, like in Detroit. Like, these artists worked, then they really had to work hard. They had to get on planes. They had to wake up early in the morning. Then they had to perform that night. And people like me really didn't understand that they had to get ready for a show. I understand that more now. But, like, there's a lot that gets, that takes place that, prior to a show that same night. But these kids, New Edition, the same thing. Bobby Brown, they'd be on the radio stations at 7 a.m. because that's drive time, the best time. Right. And then they would, be doing a luncheon with this retailer, doing this, they work so hard, these artists. And
then a sound check, and then you got to get dressed. And
then they got to get ready for their show. Aside from dealing with whatever they got to deal with home, like, who knows what was going on in their personal lives, So it was a lot going on. I really credit these artists. They worked so hard. Yeah. But a lot of fun, crazy memories.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
That's wonderful. That's fabulous. If money were no object, what would you be doing right now?
Oh gosh, I'd be in the sunset, somewhere on a beach.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I am with you. Somewhere on a Fuji Island or in
Yeah.
Hawaii
That's
or
right.
Bali. I want to go to Bali.
Yeah.
Where are some exotic places maybe you've been with some of your famous artists that you encountered?
Well, with Drew Hill, we've been in England. I think I've been more like in America mostly, but with Drew Hill, we did go to the UK. We shot a video there. But I was mostly US, and a lot of great, always in the, LA, Miami, Chicago, Detroit, Steve Harvey shooting a comedy album somewhere down under. It was hysterical. Like in Dallas, some little favorite club of his. It's, the nooks and crannies of the US, mostly. Yeah.
And so what brought you to the point that you realized you had to have Prana?
Well, I kind of saw the record business slipping apart in '98. And that's when
what did you see happening?
Everything was merging and purging a little bit more than it was. Seeing the digital and just seeing everything started folding in on all levels and on all genres. And that was in '98. I stuck it out till 2001. And I just had the mantra, control your own destiny. And I started my business, and it was not easy. I started it in the house. I was scared. I was like, and it is, it took a hold. And now, I've been in the office for now over 15 years. I incorporated public relations, and I really almost took everything that I learned from promotion to marketing, and I kind of meet a client where they are today, whether it's business or music. And I try to just help them get to that next step. And I try to simplify it. I'm always honest. I'm always work with them. And I'm like, you know what, let me work a little bit more for you before I bill you again. And that to me is relationships is what it's all about with your clients.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. There's no substitute for building a good relationship with a client. So you started out just providing a few services. You have a multitude of services that you offer now. So Tell me how it was in the very beginning and how Prana has grown today and all that you offer.
Yep. So in the very beginning, I was offering music marketing and trying to do some digital stuff, but then authentic and, whether it was radio promotion or, just marketing, because I was a product manager. So that's doing the photo shoot, the video shoot, doing the advertising, pulling everything together. I knew some people were doing things independently. So I was trying to do that. I was working with Queen Latifah. I was working with some great artists, Stephanie Mills. We had a hit with her. It was just so funny, but, just doing it on our own. Things evolved, and I brought different people in. So this was, at first when I started the business, I was paying like 4 or 5 different people. And then I realized I had to slow that down because I couldn't pay properly. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't, I would always pay them, but like, I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing this wrong. Then I said, okay, let me pay as I need them. So the graphic designer as I need him, or I'll have the client pay him, but I'll help oversee him. The same thing, he would also do website. Then, so at first I was paying 4 and 5 people. Then I just realized I just needed an assistant. Then I kind of scaled it back and hired people as I needed. So now I've built a team, and it's always like regular business with these freelance. And it depends what I'm working on. Some things I'll say, you know what, this is more of a business type of person. Client, they need this person, and this client is more music and they need this person. So it just really depends. So it took me a minute, it took me a bit to figure that out.
That was your learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was your learning curve. So now, do you have employees, or do you still use, the independent people as you need them?
So I still use independent. I do have like 2 employees, one that does PR. I have another that does, that's my assistant. Yeah, that's it. And then I freelance everybody else, whether it's a writer, graphic designer, but we've been photography, but we've been working years. And then aside from me, taking care of them, I refer them. So it's like I keep them really busy, and I'm happy about that. I get so excited when so it's like I still hire them, but then they're paid by other people. So I feel like, okay, good. Everybody's winning and doing good.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
Wonderful. Now, I told everybody that you're the president of Prana Marketing. And one thing that I noticed that stood out on the information that I got from you is that we share an admiration for the same person. And his name is Deepak Chopra.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with that, I knew I had a good connection with you. I said, this is a woman who understands vibration, who understands how life flows. And so is that where the name of the company came from?
Yes, it did. In 1998, I was reading a book called Rama Sharaka. And I pulled out this word prana, I'm not knowing the full meaning. And it means life force, the energy that keeps everything moving. And that's how, so I connected when I saw that name. But it's really funny. I got into like meditation and yoga and things later after I first connected with the word. But I was always into spirituality, always.
Yes. Well, that's wonderful. And I'm certain that as a result, it has taken you a long way to focus yourself and center yourself on a regular basis. Is meditating and yoga something that you do daily now, or?
I do it daily for years. I was first introduced to Siddha Yoga in 2001, and anybody can go on Siddha Yoga, SYDA yogafoundation.org. I was introduced to it by a friend in the music business. And I started getting into it and would go up to South Fallsburg, New York, and go to the ashram and just like really just got into it. And every morning to this day, I meditate at least 5-10 minutes. I really need to be doing it longer, but I do every morning. I kind of look at an affirmation and then I meditate. It just sets my day. It just sets the day.
Do you have a space where you go and do that, or can you sit up in the bed and immediately get into the vortex?
Nope, I need to go to a special space, and I sit there, and that's where I do it right there. It's a dedicated space, not in the bed.
How has that changed your life? How has it impacted your success?
It makes me much more focused. I can't even explain it. And I always feel God's grace. So when something's pulling and tugging and not working out, I kind of let it go, where before I push, I kind of let it go and be like, okay, let me let it rest for a minute. Let it percolate. Let's see where that's going. I try to divert my attention and focus on something else. But really it helps. I just recommend meditation so much because it does help you focus. It centers you. Thank you, God, just centers you, and, so I'll meditate, but then I also say my little prayers.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
And so tell us how COVID impacted your business and how you serve your clients.
So I definitely lost a couple of clients during COVID. And then ironically, I gained a couple of clients. It's just pretty funny. I just try to maintain, I just stay focused, and a lot of my business is word of mouth, and I just stay focused, stay busy, and work really hard. And somehow I've sustained and took on a couple of new clients, so it really depends, because some people realized during COVID, they needed public relations and they needed a little bit more marketing to get the word out. So that's been a benefit. So just trying to maintain and struggle through just like everybody else.
And so did your virtual work increase as a result of COVID? Did you have to introduce your clients to a whole different idea for reaching, their potential customers via, that method?
Yep. So with NJPAC, we had to announce virtual shows and things like this. With the restaurant, I try to give them ideas. Let's do a birthday box. Let's do family dinners. Putting things in the press. Because I grew up in the restaurant business family, that's where that restaurant thing instinct kicks in. So I try to be creative with some of the ideas and help give them the ideas. And then we get that in the media because, I can't go to the media and say, oh, here's a lunch special for $9.99. They don't want to hear that. You got to make it fun. So I try to think of, try to make certain things fun so we get the media attention. I also work with Bergen Equestrian. It is like, horseback riding. So at one point I had the owner, Anna, I'm like, Anna, you have to do Anna live from the barn. And it's a virtual show. So it got so much press, but then she started getting so busy. She's like, I don't have time for this. It was crazy. But
wow.
So there's been like some booms in the midst of all of this, you know what I mean? So it's been fun.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, in spite of the trials and tribulations we suffered, with COVID in 2020, I think a lot of growth came out of it for a lot of people. A lot of businesses started in 2020 as a result of COVID. So you have a lot of positive things. Sounds like that was one of them.
Yeah.
Now I know that that you get your meditation on and you do the yoga. Do you also incorporate working out or
I work
training?
I work out almost every day. I was always at the gym. This dog. Okay, Freddie, stop.
Well, pick your baby up.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. He might be jumping up in a minute. Yeah, here he is.
Yeah, he wants on. He wants on.
He's a COVID dog. Yes, he does.
Yes. Oh, he is so beautiful. Yeah,
he's a puppy still. He's going to be a year old January 12th.
He's a beautiful puppy. See, he just needed a little hug and a rub.
Yeah, he's playing with his little Daffy Duck toy. Anyways, as far as working out, that's like a big deal. Like, I've always worked out at the gym and I've always worked out. It's always doing something. So now during COVID, I'm not going into the gym. I'm scared. So there is a group of us that we were all at the gym and all of us go outside with one of our trainers. And almost every day at 8:30, we are in a park in Teaneck, New Jersey, and anybody can come join us.
Wow.
And we're doing our little weights and we're running and we're doing our bit, for an hour.
Okay. So, all ages, male
all
and
ages.
female?
No, it doesn't matter. Like we're all ages, young, old.
Well, where are you in Teaneck, New Jersey? What's the name of the park?
Sagamore Park. With Mina.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
Okay, for the shoulders, we're going to be doing a half kneeling shoulder press. So you're going to be in this nice half kneeling position. Make sure you have a good 90-degree angle between the front and back legs, toes facing forward, knee behind the toe, the ankle in alignment with the knee. You're going to hold this position. Make sure you have a nice neutral pelvis. So tuck it under, draw the belly button into your spine. Take the weights. You're going to exhale as you press overhead. And then return to starting. Keep your rib cage down as you press. Draw the belly button into the spine. Try to make sure there's no movement happening in your lower body. So you don't want to see this happening with the knee caving in. You don't want to see yourself sinking into your hip. You don't want to see yourself sinking into this hip. You don't want the foot to move out here. You want to keep everything in alignment as you press. And in this way, we're getting a twofer. We're helping to make your core stronger. We're fixing any imbalances that you might have in your lower body while focusing on strengthening your shoulders.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
Besides the people who you work with side by side, who you learn so much from, did you also have a particular special mentor?
I've had a few mentors. I think, Ernie Singleton from, Sharon Haywood. I don't know if you know any of these people. They're all record executives. Michael Haley, just like amazing people. I've worked with some really great people. I've been very fortunate to work with them. just there's been a lot of people. Tracy Waples is a very good friend, and even though I'm older, I'm her mentor. Sometimes she's my mentor. I think Ron McCowan. I mean, we're all just we all came up in the business together. To this day, everybody's still very close, and it's really nice. And we're all doing
that is very nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice because, there's really no way to climb the corporate ladder without that kind of, influence and support.
Right. Russell Simmons, York Cohen, they've all, they've been very supportive. When I was always working at Sony, I worked exclusively for Def Jam at Sony. So I interfaced with them constantly, so
that's a good thing.
Mentors. Yeah.
Yeah, mentors are important, and that's why I asked you who were they for you. Now, what to wrap up this delightful conversation, what's the best advice someone ever gave you?
Oh, gee, what's the best advice?
Personal or business,
right?
Either one.
I think leading with your heart. And don't take things so serious, and I'm always one of those people that will dwell on something. It's like, you just gotta let it go. It's okay. Just move on. That's it.
Just breathe. Well, that's wonderful. Yeah. And so are you. Thank you so much for joining us on Traffic Jam. It has been a great delight having an opportunity to speak with you. And I hope that folks learned a little something.
I hope so too. Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Take care.
This is the Traffic Jam. You're watching the Traffic Jam.